What is going on, everybody? It is Brett. It is time for another Pop Culture Crisis movie review that is actually a movie review this time. Today we are going to Today we are going to review the brand new Glen Powell film, Twisters, and I am here with my co-host. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, crisis actors. It's Mary. You're not going to be hearing from me as much during this review because I surprisingly did not feel super strongly either way about this one. There were good parts and bad parts, but you informed me this is the standalone sequel.
That's the language,
which is a new concept to me.
That's the language that they're using. So going right off the bat, I should say, you don't have to see the original Twister to go into this movie and take something away from it.
I haven't seen the original.
Okay,
and
so
I was...
But it made sense. It's coherent. Thing. You can probably see the points where they're winking at other elements to it. But the thing is, not very much. Like they're like the elements that they use to nod to the original are embedded in the actual script in the scenes. So unless you actually saw the original, like for instance, there's a scene at a rodeo that evokes a scene at a drive-in theater, and then there's an actual theater at the end of this film.
Yeah.
That is the best way to describe. Like if you didn't see the original, you wouldn't know, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't take away from your enjoyment of it. Right off the bat, the first thing that I thought really helped this film is that Glen Powell is a movie star. He looks like a movie star. He's treated in this film like a movie star. He's not in the first 20 minutes of the movie. The first 20 minutes of the movie are squarely on the shoulders of Daisy Edgar Jones, who plays Kate. He plays Tyler. That's his name. So I have to make sure it's not Bill and Joe, who are Bill and Joe from the original film. And Glen Powell comes in about 20 minutes in, and you can tell that the film goes out of its way to make sure that this character is taken care of and that he's not treated disrespectfully. And that goes a long way in the way that the film seems to call back to films of the past. There doesn't seem to be an agenda anywhere there.
An agenda in what sense?
They're like, okay, so I talked with someone, I was talking with people on Twitter about this movie last night because I wanted to immediately. I started talking about it. And so he said, they called her a Mary Sue girl boss. And I said,
wow.
Okay, I said, okay, so her character, she's basically the tornado whisperer, right? She's the tornado whisperer. She can sense movements in the air. And look, that's fine, but there is a tragedy at the beginning of the film that affects her, and she is not she's not stuck up, she's not snarky. She reacts to what's going on around her in a very realistic way. And I think the biggest difference a lot of people will see about this, even if they don't notice it, is that Glen Powell's character, which by the way, he's a YouTuber. He's a tornado chasing YouTuber.
That's why the military contractor storm chasers have, a certain bias against him because he's an entertainer. He's bombastic. I think it's a wild take to say that Kate in this movie is a Mary Sue character. Absolutely not, because first and foremost, like, they show that Glen Powell's character Tyler has just as much, if not more, expertise in the science
and you're waiting
than
for
she
that.
does.
Like if you're like, look, if you pay attention, like if you watch this channel, if you pay attention to the culture war, you're waiting for the moment where she gets to one up him, and she does get that moment at one point. She goes left, he goes right,
but that was after he actually won their storm chase the first time.
Correct. So
it wasn't just one-sided.
And this was something that was done consciously. There's no way that they didn't pay attention to this. I called them storm-crossed lovers. We can call them that. That's what they should have marketed it as.
Well, this is basically, it's a Hallmark rom-com in a disaster movie where she's the city girl with the laptop job who goes to the small town and she meets the small town hunky guy.
It's crazy that he couldn't clock that she was from Oklahoma given her accent.
Yeah, her accent was pretty visible, pretty noticeable.
Too,
so I don't know why that was a big reveal in the movie, but yeah, he's like, you're just a city slicker and I'm in the field.
If this was going to be actual girl bossness, one of the things that they let him do, they let him be the reckless, wild, out of control dude who just drives into storms. If this was a Mary Sue character, the dude would be terrified and the girl would be the one recklessly driving into the storm.
Exactly. The guy who was terrified is the journalist, Ben, who is accompanying Tyler and his team writing a story about them. And then Yes, ultimately Ben focuses his story on Kate at the end,
which is fine.
But that's
like,
fine.
It makes sense.
But they didn't. Yeah, you're right. They didn't make Glen Powell's character into the stereotypical panicky male lead.
Okay, another thing. They let him be forward and pushy. He's not portrayed as douchey. He's not portrayed as toxic. He's just a masculine dude who goes after something that he likes, and it's not shown in a way that speaks down to that type of persona.
Yeah, and his ragtag team is full of genuinely nice people who want to help the people who are affected by the disasters.
And they turn that on its face, right? So, here's the other thing. So, and again, we're going to get into spoilers here a little bit, guys, but I do want to encourage people to go see this movie. There's even critique of big business because Javi, which is Kate's best friend who survives this horrible tragedy at the beginning of the movie, he goes into business for himself and has to get investors. And this guy, Riggs, is buying up land from destroyed properties, which explains how they're able to afford this equipment that they're trying to get. But even he is not portrayed in an outwardly over-the-top, comically negative fashion.
Javi, however, is a bit of a simp.
Yes.
He's a bit of a simp because even back when they were in their original friend group,
he's a Discord mod in another
he was simping for her when she was, with her
ex-boyfriend,
now late boyfriend. And and then further on, he tries to use teaming up with her as a way to like make a move, but obviously Tyler is the one who wins out.
But then you find out that Tyler and them are the good guys, and they're actually going into these towns to help other people.
It was extremely predictable, I will say that. Like, I knew the minute that he mentioned his investors that it was going to be some kind of corruption, and that she was going to realize it, and then she was going to, like, team up with Tyler. Like, it was very predictable.
Yes.
Which is fine for some movies, I guess.
Predictable doesn't necessarily mean bad in most cases. So the storm scenes are intense. Now, this movie was filmed on 35 millimeter film, which is why I think a good amount of the wide shot CGI looks pretty decent, that they went to physical locations and did that. And they got some very intense scenery in there. And I think it really works. And another reason why you understand that later at the end of the movie, Kate has to go off on her own. But earlier before that, there is the storm at the rodeo, and he protects her in the pool, and Tyler protects her in the pool. He's never shortchanged throughout this film, and neither is she. Both characters are given all the arcs they want. It hit every note. There's even a scene where the article writer throws his camera in the car and goes and helps people. They did not miss on any of the story beats that they were supposed to do on here. And it is, in a lot of ways, a syrupy, very, very verbose love letter to Middle America.
Yeah, it was interesting to hear country music in a movie from Hollywood. Like that never happens.
It's a very, very strong love letter to Middle America. It doesn't pass judgment on them. It shows them as good people. If anything, it shows the tragedies that they have to go through in these instances when it happens. It does not get into climate change at any point in this movie. I kept my eye on it because the director of this film said that there wasn't going to be any of that, and there is none whatsoever. It's about a lot of things, but it still does critique evil business, but it really is kind of about redemption and loss and finding your way back home in a lot of ways. And it is wrapped up in a bit of a Hallmark over-the-top package. And my tweet last night was that I loved this movie every bit as much as I loved Top Gun Maverick. It is from the story for this film was done by the same dude who directed Top Gun Maverick, who did Top Gun Maverick, Joseph Kosinski. Lee Isaac Chung did a fantastic job directing this film. It's not cynical. It's not pretentious. It doesn't try to pass any message down to anyone. There's great scenes where they make talking about science look fun and cool because they have the ragtag group of people are interesting looking, so you want to hear them talk about science, and it's done just the right amount. It's not over the top. I love the pacing of this film.
I will push back. It's definitely not on the same level as Top Gun Maverick. Look, I did not like this as much as I liked Top Gun Maverick.
And I'm sure most people will feel that. Will feel that. I didn't say it was
good for what it is.
I
and
didn't say
really,
it was as good. I said I liked it.
It has the same quality of like syrupy sweetness that you mentioned. Yeah. But I did feel there was a loss at the end where they kind of didn't end up together, Kate and Tyler. Like there was no resolution to that.
I think part of that is because this is going off the backs of her losing a boyfriend who died, that they didn't, and I understand 5 years had passed, that they avoided the kissing at the end or anything like that, or like to avoid the fact that maybe it would look callous in the face of the fact that she was like coming back after 5 years and still mourning. Like obviously 5 years had gone by, she's living in the city, and what happened to her, the loss she felt, still affected her greatly. So I would almost bet they probably shot that scene and probably in editing decided to cut it. I do have critiques. So of the, like, between the original and this one, both films are a great look at middle America. You could say that with all the baggage that Hollywood has built up in the last 20 years, 30 years of their seeming disdain for flyover states, that there's a bit of a manufactured earnestness to it.
A little bit, yeah.
That isn't there in the original. I'm okay with that, given that the other option is that they show everybody as bumbling country bumpkins and with a certain amount of disdain in their heart in the production process.
Yeah.
So that didn't really bother me. I would say that, and this is just a nitpick from somebody who has seen the original, and I'm not even like the biggest, like if we're talking about formative years in disaster movies, Independence Day is the movie that meant more to me than I'd seen Independence Day way more than I've seen Twister, which was only a couple of times. The opening scene to Twister with Joe, her father, and her mother going down to the storm cellar was one of my favorite intense scenes ever. And it's done almost entirely with sound and flashing lights and very little in the way of actual imagery, like of actual CGI or anything like that. And I think that it informed her character's motives just as well. So I probably like that intro a little bit more, but that could also just be biased from the fact that it's something that I saw when I was much, much younger. But the PTSD that Joe seems to feel after what happened to her father seemed to catch more with me. I liked the simpler love story in this more than what they told in the original, which is Bill's character coming back and trying to get his divorce papers signed from Joe, and then they kind of rediscover each other. I liked it, but anybody who's seen the original understands that his new fiance did absolutely nothing wrong in that movie, and she just loses out. So
this is your Titanic take.
It is. It is in a lot of ways. Look, the action scenes, like depending on how much you watch horror movies or disaster movies, there's some pretty intense scenes that are done really, really well. Did you find the CGI to be overly bad, overly good? I thought it was right where it needed to be.
No, it didn't feel like Marvel CGI slop.
Because most of it was shot on an actual camera, out in actual locations. So, look, I think you guys should go see. If you're watching this is obviously like a spoil. We've done quite a few spoilers here. So, do with that what you will. I would encourage anyone that's looking for movies that are devoid of agenda and are kind to places that Hollywood is normally not kind to, telling a story Hollywood doesn't really do much these days, which is the traditional love story. I would encourage you to go see it. It's probably going to be the best experience for you to see in a theater. If you care, if you love the love story, you can wait for streaming. But if you want to actually feel the experience of these action scenes, and there are a lot of them, there's a lot of weather in this movie.
The big sounds.
Yeah, go and see it in the theaters, and let us know down below if you went and saw the movie. Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Did you like it more than the original Twister? I would say that it doesn't really matter because they don't correlate enough to even have to make the comparison outside of the name. So just let us know down below what you thought of the movie, and we'll be back with more PCC movie reviews coming soon.
Bye.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.